Here we have three lovely dips. We have beautiful whipped pub cheese made with Edam and lovely 5-year aged strong real Gouda cheese. Lovely smoked salmon dip and artichoke chive dip. Game Day Dips 2.0. Game Day Dips Revisited today on In Joe's Kitchen. Welcome back to In Joe's Kitchen and our first episode of the new year. And what it is coming to is tomorrow is game day. It is Super Bowl Sunday. What we are going to do today is we are going to make Game Day Dips 2.0. About 2 years ago in 2019, I published a video of this program, one of my earliest In Joe's Kitchen programs, and it was Game Day Dips. We're going to do Game Day Dips 2.0, and we're going to start with a very easy one. We're going to make whipped pub cheese. And pub cheese is a British invention, and it's essentially cheese plus it has cream and stabilizers in it. We get around that by using cream cheese. And what I have here is 6 ounces of cream cheese that I'm going to put into the food processor first. This is very firm cream cheese, so you need to let it sit out for a long time, at least a couple of hours. It's really soft. Now the cheese for that, what we're going to do here is you could do anything from mature strong. If you had access to mature strong cheddar, you could put that in here. I have this wonderful stuff here. This is the 5-year, 60-month aged Dutch Gouda. It's the imported stuff, and I have grated some here. We're going to use this as our strong cheese, and then we need a creamy cheese to balance it out because that's not creamy enough. So we're going to use some of this German Edam cheese. You could also use Monterey Jack cheese or mild provolone, or would be fine in this application. I wouldn't use white cheddar in this because we want to taste this cheese here. So we're going to start with that, and to that we're going to add some flavoring in there. We are going to need some salt, so we'll put a little sprinkle. This is Coleman's mustard. This is prepared mustard. You could use the dried mustard if you don't like this. We want about a tablespoon's worth here. It's delicious mustard. We're just going to use about a tablespoon. We can adjust the mustard. I'm going to put actually a little bit more in here. Some mustard is nice in this recipe. If you don't like spiciness, you could use yellow mustard and it would be perfectly fine in this recipe. I'm also going to put a few dashes of cayenne pepper sauce. This is made by Tabasco and it's cayenne and garlic. Just a few dashes, you don't need much because it is spicy. And then we are going to put a shake of lean parents in here. That's it for this part, and we're going to blend this mixture first. This one we're doing in the food processor. The other two recipes we're going to do in a bowl, and it's going to be very easy to do. So we're going to start by pulsing this. And turn it on high. Now we're going to disassemble and scrape the sides down. And we're going to start to add cheese. We're not going to add all the cheese at once. We need to build on adding the cheese. So we're going to put a handful in here. So we're going to get a nice creamy consistency before we start adding the strong cheese. Put some more in here. We'll put the rest of this cheese in here. Okay. Now while it's running, I'm going to stir in maybe 2 tablespoons of milk. I'm going to start with that. And then we can adjust up. We're also going to add this other cheese. So we'll start with 2 tablespoons of milk. Turn it off. And then we'll give it a scrape. See, it's nice, starting to get soft. Now is when we can add this cheese here. This is strong cheese. This reminds me of working at Iberia restaurant and getting to taste the Cabrales blue cheese. That was a fresh wheel that was so powerful your tongue numbed out for 30 seconds. We also used to use the Torta del Casar, which is a very strong cheese that stinks of feet. It is so strong and pungent that when you smell it, it makes you want to throw up. But luckily, when it's used in the way it's supposed to be used, which was this savory tomato bread pudding, it bakes twice. Once to bake them, and then it's baked to reheat during service, and it's just lovely because these high sulfurous compounds that make it so stinky and strong are tamed in the oven. So take a look at it. Okay. Now we're going to add more milk at this point. And we're going to continue to add milk until we get a consistency that we like. Okay. Put it on high. Leave it lit once all the milk has been added. It was about a cup's worth. could check it out. We're going to blend it once more. We want it to a consistency that's easy, that a chip could be dipped into. If you're going to use it as a spread for crackers or bread, you could leave it thicker and a denser texture. Okay. Last but not least, we do have to taste this. Just a little salt. A little more pepper sauce here. You can always adjust, you can't take away. Use a little more mustard. Another tablespoon of mustard. And this just to wake everything up. A few drops of lemon juice. And then last but not least, another drop of the parents. Just adds that nice English touch to it using both of those. I'll let her rip for the final time. This recipe is great for experiment. If you're somebody who loves chipotle, the flavor of chipotles, you could use Mexican queso enchilado and use chipotle chilies along with the cream cheese and buzz them first and then use some queso enchilado. Or if you love fresh jalapenos or pickled jalapenos, you could do a jalapeno and cheddar cheese dip here. Now we're going to take this slide, we'll remove our processor here. We've got a nice bowl to serve it in. This is going to improve overnight. So it's not all going to fit in here. I have a square container where I will pack the rest of this. This is also delicious. You could use this on a cheeseburger. You put a spoonful of it onto a burger. It'd be delicious. Okay. We'll smooth that out in a second. We'll get our refrigerator container here and we'll proceed. Just be wary of the blade in here because you don't want to cut yourself. For the Edam cheese, it was an entire square block of it, which I reserved about a hefty handful to use in our artichoke dip, and then I used the rest of it in here. But it's really how much cheese you have. It's not, if you have more grated cheese, then you're going to put in a little more milk to get it to the consistency you like. It's very important here to use milk and not something like heavy cream, because heavy cream would make it a bit too dense. Okay. I'm going to pull the blade out here, flip it upside down, and let's give the blade a little scrape here. And if you want to use more of the strong Gouda or more of the strong cheese, go right ahead. It's going to intensify in flavor as it sits overnight, so I'm not worried about it becoming, okay, get that out of the way there. And that one as well. Now we got to make this one look pretty. off the rest here. And this we will just put some wrap on and keep it for a rainy day. And there's our first beautiful pub cheese. This needs to sit out a good half an hour before you serve. Put that one there. And we'll attack our next dip. And the next one we're going to attack, we're going to make smoked salmon dip and artichoke dip. We're going to start with our smoked salmon dip. And this is our smoked salmon. This is 2 ounces of packaged hot smoked salmon. This is Alderwood smoked salmon, but you could use a different beechwood smoked salmon. It depends on what you can find. This also has peppercorns on it too. Talk about our ingredients here in a second. Okay. This recipe is very easy. I'm going to start with 6 ounces of cream cheese, softened and cut up like I did before. It's very important to cut up the cream cheese. It makes mashing it fairly easy. And we'll start the mashing process first with the cream cheese itself. To this, I'm going to add our liquid ingredient, which is a tablespoon of extra dry vermouth. And we're going to put it in here. If you can't have alcohol, you could use non-alcoholic wine for the acidity. Or you could leave it out. I just like the flavor, so we're just going to use a little bit here. And we're going to use it with our cream cheese to help soften it. Just to help us here, just continue to mash until you got a soft consistency. You could probably do this in a stand mixer. If you're making a lot, you could whip the cream cheese, or even make the base of it in the food processor, but then you gotta deal with the food processor, and you don't need to deal with the food processor. It's getting soft here, and that's what we want. Now we're going to add to this 4 tablespoons of sour cream. Okay. And about 1/2 cup of mayonnaise, and this is heavy mayonnaise. This is the avocado oil mayo that I get at Grocery Outlet. You can also buy it at most supermarkets, and it's delicious. But it's important that it's heavy mayo. If you use regular mayonnaise, it's going to be too loose. Give it a good stir. We need to get this really smooth. Get it well mixed. We're even going to scrape down the bowl here. And then continue to process it here. So we want to get a nice smooth consistency here. Okay, to this, we're going to put about a teaspoon of freeze-dried dill. I think it's better to use freeze-dried dill in this recipe, personally. But you could easily use, I wouldn't recommend the fresh dill, because I think the fresh dill is too strong in this recipe. So that's why I like to use the freeze-dried dill in this recipe. We're going to add a little salt. We can always adjust at the end. I'm also going to put in a little black pepper. You don't need a lot of black pepper, being that we are going to be using smoked salmon here. And then we need some prepared horseradish. Not much. Half a teaspoon is enough. We're not going to overdo it on the horseradish. And a little lemon, which brightens everything up. Mix it in. And it will get a little bit looser, nice consistency because of the lemon juice. I'm actually going to taste it at this point. The dill flavor will come out more tomorrow. Now we're going to put in smoked salmon. I have 2 ounces of smoked salmon here. I think that's enough for this amount of dip. And it's important here to use the hot smoked salmon. It works best for this. I wouldn't chop up blocks or gravlax or the cold smoked cured salmon, because it's not going to be as good in this recipe. Nice and chunky. Last but not least, scallions, 3. You could also put chives in here or parsley, but since I'm putting chives with my artichoke dip, I like the scallions, and I like the scallions with this recipe here. Now we can give this a taste. Can add a touch more salt. And a touch more pepper, and that's it. That's how easy this dip is. Get our little bowl here. Scrape it off. Now I'm going to use a spoon to pack this. If you wanted to use a recipe like this for bagels, you could use, if you're going to do a recipe similar to this and use it for bagels, what I would recommend doing is using all cream cheese and whipping the cream cheese in a stand mixer. Okay. This one, most of all of it, lost it there. I'll grab it in a second. Most of it fit in my little cup here, so which we will wrap them nicely. Just like our pub cheese, it needs to come out a half an hour ahead of serving time, so it's soft. Scraped it all out, okay. Last but not least, we're going to make artichoke dip. We'll start pulling our ingredients out here. Moving our other ingredients out of the way. glass bowl here to do the last bit of this in here. We're going to put our cream cheese in here. Work it down with the spoon, because in this one we need to get the cream cheese fully softened and combined with the other ingredients. Just like before, we are going to put, for flavoring, a tablespoon of white wine in here. And what I have here is 8 ounces of cream cheese. In the last 2 recipes, it was 6 ounces of cream cheese. For this recipe, it's 8 ounces of cream cheese. It's a bit more cream cheese than the others. They'll have our half of a cup of mayonnaise and our quarter of a cup, 4 tablespoons of sour cream. If you can't have wine or don't want to use wine, you don't have to. Just add a little acidity in here. That's nice. So we're mashing this carefully here. And I have here 2/3 of a can of quartered artichokes. And I have roughly chopped. They don't need to be any even cuts, just cut them up rough. Now that our cream cheese is soft, we can go ahead and we'll put in our sour cream next. Make sure you use full-fat sour cream and full-fat mayonnaise. Don't use light here. If you need to use light mayonnaise, then maybe you shouldn't be eating a dip like this. Because it doesn't taste that great, so if you look at this consistency here, which we will scrape it down, it's becoming smoother than the other one. The other one we left a little chunky with the cream cheese, and it's not a problem. This one we want it really smooth. This is a popular the artichoke jalapeno dip is even more popular. This one's going to be a straight artichoke dip. And this could easily be turned into a hot artichoke dip by putting it into an oval baker and cooking it in the oven. Okay. Now we are fluffy here. We're going to put mayonnaise, half of a cup. You could also use Best Foods mayo in here, but this avocado oil mayo works better because it's a heavier product. But if you have Best Foods, it's going to work fine. The flavor will be slightly different when you use Best Foods mayo, but okay. That's nice and smooth and fluffy. I'm going to clean this off and use a rubber spatula to do the rest here. And then we'll use this spoon to pack it into the crock. See, nice, smooth, and fluffy. To this, we're going to add half a teaspoon of dried dill weed. I'm going to put in some freshly ground black pepper. I'm also going to put in a dash of lemon juice. And a drop of hot pepper sauce. You don't have to put this in, but we're going to put a drop of hot pepper sauce in here. We're going to use to season this a special product. This is called Vegeta Natur. This is the seasoning made from dehydrated vegetables. You'll see this on my channel here on the program The Spicer's Table, where we cook Hungarian food. And I'll show you about this special seasoning here. That's what it looks like. It's made from dehydrated vegetables, herbs, and spices, and salt. This is the nature, so it doesn't contain any added MSG. And I have it dosed out here in an old spice grinder. And we're just going to grind some in here. I put 20 grinds in. We'll check it at the end, because the artichokes are already seasoned. So we're also going to put in here a handful of, this is German Edam, but it could be Monterey Jack cheese or mild provolone that's been grated. A lot of recipes call for Parmesan cheese, but I don't like the Parmesan cheese in this. I like to put the white cheese in here. It works better in this recipe. And then you don't have that strong Parmesan taste. Okay. Chives. About a heaped tablespoon's worth of chives here. You could also put scallions or parsley in here, depending on what you like. And last but not least, we're going to fold in our artichokes. It's about 2/3 of a can. Just make sure they're drained. But I wouldn't rinse them off, because you want you want to keep them all seasoned, so don't rinse them in the water. Now we'll just fold. This will get a bit softer as it sits, and all the flavors will permeate. And next we need to taste for seasoning. This is a chunkier dip than the others that we just made. So give it a taste here. Good. I'm going to put in a little more of the Vegeta seasoning here. A bit more ground pepper. And make sure it's freshly ground, or if you use a lot of pepper, pre-grind the pepper. A lot of chefs use the pepper grinder where it twists and empties into a little container underneath. So you're going to use that kind of pepper mill, just you could grind it ahead. And a little more lemon, and because it needs the acidity. And we're going to put in a drop more of our hot sauce. Not to make it spicy, just it perks up the flavors. And then we'll taste it one more time, because I think you need multiple, you should taste things multiple times after you've corrected. But sometimes you'll correct and maybe it didn't correct enough, or it corrected, or you overcorrected and you put too much of something. Like if you put too much salt in here, you could mash up a little more cream cheese and that could mute it out. Okay, now let's taste for seasoning. Yep. The last one here. We'll pack it into this crock. This makes a lot more dip than the others. I will take the rest and we'll pack the rest into this container here. If you wanted to be super 70s catering style, you could wash bell peppers, colored ones, red, orange, and yellow bell peppers, and you can carefully cut the tops off. And then using a small paring knife, clean the insides out but leaving the bottom intact. And you could pack your dip into the bell peppers and serve it that way, and use some curly catering kale as a garnish. Okay. Move this stuff out of the way here. Okay. And these are our 3 dips that we made today. A bit more on the luxurious side of things. If I remember, in the last one we did an onion dip, a truffled onion dip, classic, and we also made a couple others. I can't remember what the dips were. These are wonderful. Just make sure they sit out a half an hour before serving, and they're just wonderful. Also, I think it's important, put a spoon in each one, so in case you're serving crackers or somebody doesn't want to eat the chips and wants to spoon it onto some vegetables or onto their plate, serve a spoon with it. Just makes things easier. Also, if you're going to have crackers around or bread around, you can use it for spreading. So until next time, peace out and keep it real.